Hey, this is Arthur Robinson Jr. I am the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com. I am the creator of AudioSecretsTrainingEvent.com. I want to welcome each and every one of you to this powerful video. In this video, you're going to experience life-changing information that you will not find anywhere else. I have secured an incredible interview with a great friend of mine, international speaker, best-selling author. His name is Russ Whitney. Russ Whitney is the founder of the Whitney Education Group. In 2006, his companies have combined over $250 million worldwide. Russ Whitney is a multi-millionaire, and he is a best-selling author of 30 books, and his new powerful book that he just released is called The Inner Voice, Unlock Your Purpose and Your Passion. So this interview, you're going to hear exclusively about how Russ Whitney unlocked his purpose and his passion. You're also going to hear about how Russ Whitney became a multi-millionaire at the age of 27, and his net worth at that particular time was over $1 billion. Russ Whitney also breaks down layman's terms about how anyone, if they have the right mindset, they can make phenomenal money as being a real estate investor, and he is the author of The Real Estate Mentor and much, much more. So remember, this is not bullshit information. The correct information will change your situation. Wealthy people take advice from other wealthy people. Poor people take advice from poor people. But like Abraham Lincoln says, you cannot help the poor by being one of them. So right about now, go get your pen and your pad, sit back and relax, and write down some notes. In this interview that I'm going to reveal to you with my great friend, international speaker, best-selling author, Russ Whitney, this interview is going to change your life. So check it out. Today, I have a wonderful person on the call, and he's a great friend of mine. His name is Russ Whitney. And for those that don't know Russ, let me explain to each and every one of you about this incredible, powerful man. Russ Whitney is an entrepreneur and best-selling author. He is a recognized worldwide leader in business, real estate investment, and financial training fields. A high school dropout, Russ began investing in real estate at the age of 21 while working full-time in a slaughterhouse. By the age of 23, he had achieved financial independence and was able to quit his job to concentrate on real estate. He began one of America's youngest self-made millionaires at the age of 27. His many business achievements include founding and building one of the largest and fastest growing publicly traded financial education companies of its type in the world. Russ is well known for his work with at-risk youth, spearheading a successful $2 million fundraiser to build the first youth center in his hometown. Russ Whitney is the author of 30 books, workshops, and home study courses, including bestsellers like Building Wealth, Millionaire Real Estate Mentor, and The Millionaire Real Estate Mindset. And his new powerful book is called Inner Voice, Unlock Your Purpose and Your Passion, and that is an awesome, impressive resume. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Russ Whitney to the show.
Well, thank you, Arthur. I don't know if I can live up to that bio, but thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Russ, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the listeners worldwide about your new powerful book, Inner Voice, Unlock Your Purpose and Your Passion. I gladly appreciate it.
Well, super. I'm happy to be here. Do you want to know a little bit about the book? Is that it?
Well, actually, what I would like to know, and can you educate the listeners worldwide, who you are, how long you've been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise?
All right, well, I'll give you a quick bio. When I was a kid, I was raised in a very abusive alcoholic family. Told I was no good, I'd never amount to anything. Many of us probably been in that situation. And I got in trouble when I was 17 years old. My parents died when I was 14. I got in a little bit of trouble, and I ended up going to jail. This is 30 years ago for a couple of years. And I came out at 20 years old, and I got married 3 months later, believe it or not, after I met my wife.
Wow.
And I was married for 29 years, 3 great kids. And I worked at a slaughterhouse. I was 20 years old now. I was making $6 an hour. It was a union job. It wasn't horrible, but it was a slaughterhouse nonetheless, where they slaughtered hogs and then you make the hot dogs out of them. And I got this voice in my head, Arthur. Today I'll call it inner voice. I wouldn't have known to call it then. But I had this voice in my head that was just kept telling me I could do something better with my life. I could do something better with my life. And so I did, like probably many of the listeners here, business owners and people bootstrap businesses. Well, way back then, the internet wasn't around, so I started sending away for all the get-rich-quick schemes that you see in the back of magazines. Mail order millions and stuffing envelopes. How to stuff envelopes, make $300,000 a year without getting out of bed. Wow. I almost wish that one would have worked. But none of those worked for me. Then one day I sent off for this book on real estate investing. And there were no magical answers in it. The book was called Financial Genius, written by a fellow who later became my good friend, Mark Harrelson. And this was really a groundbreaker back then. But there were no magical answers in the book, but it had a concept. And the concept said, if you went to an area town and looked for properties that were run down, beat up shape, paint them, clean them, and jazz them up, you could force the value up with the improvements, which made sense to me. And it also had a mathematical formula. It said you could figure out whether or not a rental property will make money or not before you ever buy it. Simply add up the rents, deduct the expenses, and if there's money left over, that's positive cash flow. Well, that made sense to me, and I'll tell you within 3 weeks, I did one rundown property, and I made $11,000.
Wow.
Although that may not sound like a lot of money, these days. Back then, for me, that was a whole year's pay, because I was only making $6, $6.50 an hour. So on a 40-hour week, that's $250 or $1,000, $1,100 a month. And I started to buy every book I could get my hands on. I thought I'd hit. It's like hitting a lottery for me. And within 2 years, I bought 6 or 7 properties. Not a big deal, but the rentals, the net rents from those equal my pay, about $1,200 a month. So that was about $150, $200 a property in cash flow. No big deal, but with that, $1,200 or $1,500, I was able to pay my car payment, my mortgage payment, put food on the table, have a little luxury money left over without going to the full-time job. So I quit the job, and then 4 years later, I went on. 4 years later, at age 27, I hit a net worth of $1 million. So I became a millionaire. And, not cash, so I don't want to, give anybody any false hope here. A lot of it was equity, but some cash, but a bona fide net worth of $1 million, and that's when I wrote my first book. And my first book was about detailing exactly how I did what I did, and when I wrote the book, it wasn't because I thought I was a good author. Truly, I still had some self-confidence, self-esteem issues, and I had 2 kids by then, and I always worried that if something happened to me, my kids would see the dad had a bad, upbringing and all that. I wanted my kids to see that their dad wrote a book, and that's why I wrote it. And then it got published by the National Institute of Financial Planning, and I started out on a speaking circuit, and I started my own financial education business. And I had ups and downs and lots of failures, throughout that time period. And then about 1995, I hit it. I developed what we call advanced training. So I developed all the financial trainings after conventional education, junior college and college. So I turned them into 1 to 3 year continuity programs. And in 1995, we did about $5 million in business, and I had probably 12, 15 employees. The next year, 96, we did $13 million, then $26 million, then $60 million, $90 million, $110 million, all the way up to by about 2005 or 6, we hit $250 million a year. Wow! And I had 2,000 employees in 7 countries. Also owned some construction companies, publishing companies, but all done without ever having graduated high school. All done, self-study. And, that company, I did take it public. I took the stock from 14 cents to $14 a share. We bought companies like the Rich Dad, or started companies like Rich Dad. People listening probably heard of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, Robert Kiyosaki. Well, I developed the whole back-end education piece to that. So I still own 38% of that company. And these numbers, that I'm throwing around, don't be impressed by them, because there was a lot of failure along the way, too, which is what my new book, Inner Voice, talks about. It talks as much about failure and the struggle as it does the success. But anyway, the company was publicly traded, so you can go on the SEC.gov, and all of that information I just told you is public, public information, because we're a public company. Well, anyway, in about 2005, my company got investigated by the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they were making some heinous allegations, and they were not true. But the SEC, when you're a public company, you can get investigated by the SEC no different than a citizen gets investigated by the IRS when you get an audit. Just because you're audited doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But it can be a very intimidating and scary process. And I'll give you the short story. 4 years later, I spent $22 million in legal fees, my own and company money.
Wow.
4 years later, the SEC and the Department of Justice closed their case with no finding of any wrongdoing, no sanction, no fine, nothing, zero. But 1,000 people lost their jobs, Arthur, with that process. 1,000 people lost their jobs with this crazy investigation. Stock dropped dramatically. And to be honest with you, I had gone through a lot of ups and downs and struggles, and I was a hard worker, and I was just burnt out. My marriage started to crumble. Kids got estranged from me. My just whole life started to tumble. The real estate market dropped down here in South Florida, where I live. The commercial and professional real estate investment market dropped by 80%. Huge. So I lost a great portion, almost all of my net worth. And I just hit a rock bottom in my life after that many years. I was 50 years old. And I had a Citation 7 jet, a Citation 2, any car you could imagine. And when this whole drop happened, I didn't lose it all. But you know what, Arthur? That's what this whole new book is about. This is a great departure. Inner Voice is the book. It was just released a couple months ago. It's just come out. It's called Inner Voice, Unlock Your Purpose and Your Passion. And here's how this book came about. Now, keep in mind, I've written 3 bestsellers, as you said, 30 books. But this is the one I'm most proud of. It has nothing to do with making money, but it's everything about making money. It's not a religious book, but it doesn't conflict with religion. And the way the book came about is I found myself rock bottom, humiliated in my industry, lost most of my net worth, and I just looked up to God after all the blessings throughout the years, and I said, what is the point? What am I here for? What's the purpose of this life? And I had measured, my life by success and investments and material things, and not that I didn't have some balance with children and health, I did. But when I got started on the path to wanting to become a millionaire, it was never about the money. It was never about the Rolls Royce or the jets or the Rolex. I wanted to be a millionaire to show all those people who said that I was nothing and nobody that I was somebody. I felt when I heard that millionaire message, it just resonated with me. And that's just 20 years old. And so I find myself now, and this is about March of 2008, okay, so a short time ago, 5 years ago, almost 6, with the question, God, what's the point of life? What am I here for? And who's right? Are the Christians right? Are the Jews right? Are the Muslims right? Are the Hindus right? Is the Tao Te Ching right? Is it, Wayne Dyer, Oprah Winfrey? Who's right? Or are they all saying the same things in different times, cultures, and languages? And I was confused because I grew up, in a Christian background, but I never felt I had a God inside. I believed in God, went to church, the 1 hour a week requirement, and, sometimes less. But I never felt this personal relationship they talked about. And so I set out, and the book details this. I set out on a 20-country mission. I started in Hawaii at a mental, physical, and spiritual retreat. Then I went on to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Israel, Haiti, Colombia, Spain, all through Europe. And just because of the size of the company and the books, I got access. So I was able to meet with some of the top business, spiritual, and religious leaders, thought leaders worldwide. And I went on this mission. I never went on a mission to write a book. I went on a mission to save my own life. My world had crumbled, and I just didn't see the value in money. People think they got money, everything's okay. Well, that was true. John Belushi would be alive, Anna Nicole Smith, wouldn't be dead, Lindsay Lohan wouldn't be in rehab, and the story goes on. So I did find some answers, some really good, solid answers, and it changed my life. It saved my life and changed it. Anybody listening to this right now, if you're in a small business, want to be in business, if you're an opportunity seeker of any type, I think this book is a must-read. You won't read anything like it on the market, a game changer. In the voice, I talk in two voices. I talk in the voice of a warrior, and I talk in the voice of a statesperson. The warrior we categorize from, age 20 to 40, let's say. And some people get it sooner, some people never get it. But in those phases of life, we're trying to find our way. We're trying to figure this life out. And we operate on human training. We operate on selfishness, self-centeredness, finger-pointing, judging, blaming, criticizing, sarcasm, self-pity. A lot of why God this and why God that stuff. But all we have during those years is what we learned from mom, dad, brother, sister, preacher, teacher, and that's how we operate. What I found as I traveled the world looking at people whose lives have been changed in dramatic ways, what I found is most went through and will go through what we call a life crushing. Either life crushes us in some way, shape, or form, a relationship, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, children crush us, or we crush ourselves in self-sabotage. Now, some people don't go through that, but most do. And that's where we start to gain a little wisdom, and we start to look up and say, okay, what's the point? Because I believe if you haven't stopped to think about this, I felt like a hamster on a hamster wheel, and I bet a lot of people listening also feel the same way. It's like the hamster wheel in the pet store where the hamster runs, it gets nowhere. So it's like run, find the right spouse, find the right career, change it a few times, start a business, fail, raise the kids, take them to soccer. Every once in a while we have a good family or vacation day. We say life is good, back on the hamster wheel Monday morning. And I don't care if you're making $10,000 a year or $10 million a year, it's the same hamster wheel. And I was thinking, 75 years later, after it all starts, I'm going to die. If that's all life is about, and there is a God or an organization of this universe, I was thinking it'd have to be a pretty mean God. And I didn't believe that was true, and I wanted to find that answer. What is the whole point of this thing?
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Now, you built a phenomenal company to $250 million, and you became a multimillionaire at the age of 27. What was your thought process back then when you became a millionaire at the age of 27 investing in real estate?
Well, when I became a millionaire, when I finally hit that net worth of $1 million, I remember a year or two prior to that, I said to myself, when I hit that million, I'm going to retire. When I got there at 27, I thought, holy cow, what am I going to do? And I'm on top of the world right now, and I'm in control, or at least I felt like I was. I then set a goal for $10 million.
Wow.
I figured I'd retire at 35 years old. And I just want to mention this to your listening audience. If you go to Amazon, because I hate to do an interview like this, I get someone excited or put this type of thing within reach, and then the interview's over and people go back to doing what they did. My suggestion would be to simply go to innervoice.com, order the book, or you can order it wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, but you get probably a better price right on the innervoice.com website. And I'm also going to mention this. Anybody listening right now to your show, as a thank you to you for having me on it, we're going to...
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to offer any of your listeners a free Inner Voice certified coaching with either me or one of my top Inner Voice coaches. We're going to give them a free 45-minute coaching. That's valued at over $200. They'll get that for free. So all they have to do is go to innervoicecoach.com. So innervoicecoach.com.